Want to say what's up to everybody. Davey D hanging out with you. And man, there's a lot that we can talk about and we will talk about. We want to talk about the plight of political prisoner, founding member of the American Indian Movement, Mr. Leonard Peltier. Very important that we know his name, we know his history, we know the struggle and the movement behind him. And so we have a couple of guests, including my man Aaron here, who's put together, he's a family member of the Peltiers, put together an album. They have a documentary, and we're going to talk about that. Also joining us, somebody who is no stranger to discussions about political prisoners and their plight. He's known for his famous saying, "Free 'em all." We're talking about Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. So, first of all, welcome to the show.
Hey, right on, good to be
Welcome
here.
to the show, Aaron.
Thanks for having me.
Fred, I needed to ask you a couple of questions before we jump into the situation about Leonard Peltier, because you're from Chicago. And I think with this past weekend, for people who don't know when you see this, this past weekend we had the shooting at Newtown, Sandy Brook Elementary School. So a lot of people are discussing mass shootings, mass murders. And inevitably, what comes up is the discussion about the carnage that routinely goes on in Chicago. It's not unique in the sense of that, but every weekend we hear 10 people, 30 people, 40 people. In fact, this past weekend, 15 people were shot in the city of Chicago. But when we talk about mass shootings, the eyes of the country go to the school shootings, where it's mainly white, and we bring out the TV reporters and the cameras, the president is there, and it's really an attempt to heal those wounds. But we don't necessarily see that when it takes place in the inner cities, whether we're in Oakland, where we're filming at, or in Chicago, where you're from. And I wanted to see what your thoughts are about that when you hear and see what's going on. 15 mass shootings this year alone.
Well, the case in Connecticut showed the contrast on how the black community in particular, and oppressed communities in general, how they view the type of response that is given. And we've seen a situation in Connecticut that even before the crime scene was even sealed off, even while people were still coming out of the school, you've seen representatives from mayor all the way up to the chief CEO of this country, President Barack Obama, literally come out, teary-eyed, addressing the people, and even the way the sentiments were expressed, the way the police department, the way that they dealt with the people, as victims. And you heard terms such as grief counselors, so on and so forth. On the in contrast, in south side of Chicago, Cincinnati, Detroit, and as you pointed out, in particular Chicago, the cases where the rampant body bags are so normal within our community. In fact, within approximately a week and a half ago, I literally seen children 6, 7 years old, literally playing with the residue of the yellow tape, the murder scene, the crime scene tape that still lays around south side, west side, Inglewood, North Lawndale, Chicago. And the deal is, these children, they don't see, let alone the president, any city officials. You can get a mailman to come out and talk about, talking about grief counselors or the flags be flown half-staff. And this trickles down to the sentiments on how the way the black people view themselves, because it's a message sent to every politician, every police department, every slumlord, every foreign merchant in our community, that these type of activities are cool and all right to happen within our community. So this is a blatant example, again, how black lives in particular are viewed as opposed to white folks.
And, it's interesting, because obviously there's sickness, obviously there's trauma, and the concern is that if this guy who shot all those people, his name is Adam Lanza, who got legal guns from his mom, who was carrying all types of weaponry that in the city of Chicago you wouldn't be able to you wouldn't be see the light of day from the jail cell if you had that. But she was able to have all that. And the concern is, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? How do we heal from the trauma? And I want to go back to that. what sort of trauma do you think folks in a place like Chicago is dealing with when there's so many shootings? 15 this weekend. I mean, what do you think, how does that impact the day-to-day movements of people?
Asada Shakur pointed out that with being oppressed, one must continuously attempt to remind him or herself to be able to distinguish what's normal and what's abnormal. And the deal is that, a lot of times in the white community, they say today was a good day. They may be speaking in reference to the stock markets or something, and so it was good. However, in the black community and other oppressed communities, when they say today was a good day, that meant they may have only been pulled over by the police 2 or 3 times, something of the sort. And we had to, start exposing these contradictions, objectively, and not let the system, regardless what apparatus it represents itself, the schools, the media, or any other forms of propaganda, tap into the emotions of the people to get some sort of knee-jerk response. I know a lot of people going to say, he's on Chairman Fred, he always wants some sort of conspiracy theory type of thing. But just for the record, a suspect, I'll be real cautious with situations such as this, because I know that historically, this system, strange, quote-unquote, strange situations happen, and they are exploited to push a whole agenda, more legislation, more to take away more democratic rights of the people, and nobody can deny the fact that there's an intensification of the tactic, to take the right to bear arms from the community, and
Well, it's interesting you said that. Let me stop there for a second, and I'm gonna bring you in a second on this, Aaron. Obviously, when we walk around our community and we have people who aren't well, who have a fatalistic view on life, that will pull a trigger at a drop of a dime and kill folks, they shouldn't be walking around with weaponry. I think anybody watching and hearing would agree. At the same time, as much as I don't want those guns in our community, because innocent lives are killed, mothers, dads, brothers and sisters. Here in Oakland, we had, 4 or 5 kids killed. Over the weekend, there were the 4 and 5-year-old kids killed outside of Newton in Alabama. So this is happening in black and brown communities. But what caught me was, before the bodies were even cold, Michael Bloomberg the mayor of New York, had already shot off a statement. He put a statement out, and it was basically like, go in there and put these laws into place and show this leadership. And everybody was cheering, and I thought, wait a second, this is the same Michael Bloomberg that stood in front of the world and said the police department is his private army, not our private army, his private army. And where I'm going with this is that if you look, not too long after that statement, when Occupy Wall Street showed up, the police were dispatched to smash down on that movement. But there were 2 things that happened with that. Police worked for Bloomberg and smashed on it, but the police were also rented out to J.P. Morgan and Wall Street that were paying the bills. So when people were getting beat up and tear gassed and beaten because they were demanding economic parity and wanted to know what's up with the finances and the 1% versus 99%, the police wearing white shirts were working for J.P. Morgan, or at least J.P. Morgan had given them a big old donation. And so they were basically, we will protect you and not us. And so with that in mind, that's where it becomes scary. It's like, okay, so if the police are your private army, who's protecting me from your army? Because you didn't say us, you said yours. And we can carry that over to Rahm Emanuel, the mayor in Chicago, where you saw similar politics play out during the Occupy movement, or even when they had NATO, the NATO meeting, where he shut the whole city down, and Chicago police was his private army, but not ours as the citizens. So how do we look at that, knowing these 2 scenarios exist?
Objectively, and that's difficult, because the deal is the media. They'll show you, perfect example: the children gunned down. And it strikes the emotions of the people. But I say objectively, let's go even with the history of the gun control movement, which was birthed in response to the emancipation of chattel slavery. Right. And so the deal was basically that these former slaves should not be armed. And the whole Minister UEP Nunes said it best, and unarmed people are subject to slavery at any given time. And we can look at the case scenario with some big guns. When the U.S. was talking about Iraq was guilty of possessing weapons of mass destruction, you had situations with North Korea said, we strapped, we armed, we strapped, we armed over here. There was a hesitancy about even moving, and did not even go to North Korea. In Chicago, it should be noted that Chicago, Illinois, has historically had the most stringent, the toughest gun laws. So this is not, equate to the whole thing about this propaganda put forth about stopping crime. And the whole thing regarding the police department being privatized, the correlations can be drawn with inside the prisons, we refer to as the concentration camps, right. The colonial schools, and the deal is, it's literally big business, for corporate America, but at the same time, it initially runs down the public schools or the police here to serve you as a public entity, and how you see the fangs coming out more and more out of this system saying, no, the whole thing about big business, corporation, and privatization.
Has Barack Obama cried for the kids in Chicago?
Yes. I was
and he lived in your city. He lived in your neighborhood.
No, they say a different neighborhood.
Different neighborhood?
Hyde Park. That's different neighborhood.
But it's in the South Side.
It's South Side Chicago.
But different South Side.
Different South Side.
Okay.
Different world.
Okay.
But they
I thought you might have been hanging out with
no. And they say, and I literally, it should be noted, and children see this. Well, 2 instances of tears, coming from President Barack Obama is one. In response to commending the white campaign workers that worked on this campaign. And again, this situation here with regards to these children. On the premise by saying this, so I know a lot of people try to depict me as some sort of cold, stoic, disconnected, but we have emotions too, but we have the tears there for the children on Sage Avenue in Philadelphia, you know what I'm saying? Someone might argue, well, Barack Obama wasn't the president then. Again, let's go even to present day. We don't have to talk about no back in the days. Present day situations, the atrocities that black people and other oppressed communities go to on a day-to-day basis. Some black, brown, and red communities, the atrocities on the reservations, the atrocities in the ghettos and barrios. You don't see the president or alderman. You don't even see a mailman. Even acknowledge. Let alone talk about terms like grief counselor, so on and so forth. Right. And this trickles down to the mindset of the people. They feel like our lives are not valuable. And you have 5, 6, 7-year-old children on a day-to-day basis, literally laid out. Being gunned down, taken up, locked up in some sort of fashion by the system in our communities.
Miss Clint, y'all, we here live and direct with my man, the Border Technique. Y'all know how we do this, man. We say what's the call free of all, and particularly here today, we're in the case of man, too long for hell, the political prison, Leonard Peltier. I know I'm talking too fast, now y'all listen too slow. Man, real quick, man, we're showing solidarity down brother out here, brother Border Technique right here, man. So we're doing solidarity shot for Leonard Peltier.
First and foremost, shout out to all the elders, all the political prisoners, free them all, that's how we say it. I feel that we're living on occupied land right now. We continuously keep hearing about illegal immigrants and this screaming at individuals who have lived here for thousands of years. We keep seeing Native American, African people being the victims of shameless and disgusting crimes by the state. We keep hearing about it being swept under the rug. And as a community, I think we're all tired of that. As a community, I think we all know that there's an innocent man in prison and that the federal government specifically targets movements that expose the hypocrisy and the manner in which they take advantage of the public. Nowadays they want to pit private sector against working class. They got people saying, oh, these teachers are the problems, when it's really corporations that have drained the system completely dry. They're trying to cut people's collective bargaining all over the world. They're trying to make it seem like they're humanitarian for offering people life in jail instead of killing them for a crime that they never commit. You're not a humanitarian unless you give the motherfucker back 20-odd years of his life, 30-odd years of his life. Free Mumia, free Leonard Peltier, we're still in the struggle. Mortal Technique, we out of here.
Aaron, let me bring this in to you as well. Leonard Peltier, your family member, has been in jail for over 30 years.
Yes.
And part of the American Indian movement, which was subjected to COINTELPRO, was followed by the FBI, undermined when J. Edgar Hoover and others in power were there.
Yes.
And really what you're talking about is the first inhabitants of this country, this land, who were subjected to genocide. And collectively speaking, because people should remember First Nation people are a collection of many folks
Yes.
who speak different languages and what have you, have all been, summarily dismissed and erased from history. And so when we even have these discussions, we don't even talk about Native peoples. It's black, brown, everybody else. And so when you're seeing the type of carnage that's going on, and then understanding the history of what First Nation people have gone through, where it's more than just kids wiped out, entire peoples have been wiped out. What are your thoughts when you see this come on, when you see what's unfolded this past weekend go down?
Well, right off the top of the bat, it reminded me of the Red Lake shootings years ago, where it was on a reservation, and it was a native shooting, on a native school. So that was barely even heard of by the media. Hardly even reported it. So.
What happened there, for people who don't know?
Well, a young man just shot up a school similar, to that shooting and to all these other ones we've seen over the years. It's right up in Minnesota, South Dakota area, and Red Lake. There's just we don't want to get numb to this keep on happening, and when we learn about our history, the real history that's not taught in colonial schools, some of us may identify, some of us may not, but through our practices, in our culture, we come to learn to understand what it's really about, and it's a systematic oppression that's been going on, that's historically done, and it's not just like done abstractly, like in some way that people can't understand. It's done through the schooling systems and through boarding schools, and natives not even be able to learn their own languages and cultures or any of their ways or even their political beliefs. Like a lot of natives these days, we have our Leonard Peltier campaigns, and a lot of the native community isn't even there because they may not identify with the politics because they're taught not to identify with any politics and just to go along with whatever someone else is dictating for them. And so, myself being multiracial, mixed with 3 races, like that had, learning about the native culture was even more of a struggle growing up. But people like Leonard Peltier, which I'm honored to be a family member of, teach the native ways from being locked up. And there's other people, like a lot of other great native warriors too, that have turned into like philosophers and teachers over the years. And they teach like how to identify with the genocide and how to self-determination, how to stand up to fight up against that. And that definitely is just a sad tragedy that happened, and it was very sad. And with what happened just last week on it was this last Friday, and it was the same day as the Leonard benefit in New York. So we're gearing up for a Leonard benefit that's been done for years, and then the morning of it happens, and so it was just a hard tragedy. And then it's such that Leonard Peltier, because he's in prison for aiding and abetting the death of 2 FBI agents, even though he's falsely convicted, people identify him as a shooter, and him being the bad guy when he's the victim, and he has been was targeted, and they might automatically say like, well, how are you going to take that type of take, without understanding what happened in his case.
Let's even look at that phenomenon for a second. The New York Times ran an article about Adam Lanza, the person who was responsible for the 26th death. 20 children, 6 people, women at the school and his own mom, 27 people total. And they humanized him in the article. They talked about him being a troubled kid. They even said that he was intelligent. He had mental challenges, but he was able to overcome. And they really, if you didn't know better, you really feel, sorry for this guy, at the very least. And you walk away from reading that article saying, poor Adam, we need to help more people like him. But 30 years later, you say the word Leonard Peltier in certain circles, and it's demonized, in the mainstream. Yes. He's a shooter. He's a killer. He's somebody he's the reason why America's gone down. That's the sort of thing.
Yes.
Even with your father, who was the victim of a massacre on December 4th, 1969, Fred Hampton, chairman of the Black Panther Party. He's loved in our community, but even when you talk to people outside, if we bring up his name, he is seen as somebody who's evil. He might have brought this on himself, is what some people would suggest. So this demonization of people who are actually fighting to bring about a better tomorrow for their kids, the same way as these people in Newton. How do we make that, not only make that connection, but how do we as people who are on the receiving end of bad politics and bad legislation and what have you, how do we not lose our humanity in all this, and how do we not get into a thing where we're bitter or we come across as, Me Too and, fighting, as my friend Mark Gonzalez says, fighting for tears, fighting over people's tears. How do we remain, human and whole? And I'll start off, maybe you, and then you, Fred.
Well, basically, I take it on a case-by-case basis on whatever the situation may be, and going into that situation, looking at what's really going on in the background, what social circumstances have to do with this, and who the people represent. And basically, Leonard Peltier has many principles that people follow him because they're identified with those principles, and that dehumanizes, dehumanizes him to,
It humanizes him to us.
Yes, humanizes him to us, and basically, part of the work I'm doing is to try to make it so we dehumanize. I'm sorry.
You're trying to make sure he's humanized us.
Humanized after all the work that's going to make it not seem that way, Right. And it's hard to, any time there's a shooting or murder, the way the media always presents it as, they're automatically guilty, and we don't even get a chance to think about there should be some sort of what really happened there, just the way it's presented to us, and the way people get conditioned just to look at these cases, and how do we identify Leonard Peltier or something identified in just some shooting just that happened on the street. And one thing is really important is when people learn about indigenous culture, that they learn about the sovereignty and how Leonard Peltier is part of the sovereign people and living in this land on Turtle Island, North America, and they're sovereign people, and they're allowed to have, even though the government doesn't allow them to, they're allowed to have a army and our warriors to stand up and defend the community, and their sovereignty plays a key role in the whole Leonard Peltier situation, because really the jurisdiction of the courts don't even have jurisdiction over this, but then they automatically give it to the courts, but really we have our own government, our own system, but it's not honored. Yeah, we don't get, so that's the first case with Leonard Peltier, but then for innocent people that are locked up that aren't part of sovereign nations, but that's where I feel like nationalism is important, because we have to identify our own governments, our own peoples, with building up structures to help out with what's going on with oppression over the years as a response to that. And a lot of white liberal people don't identify with why we should do that, because it's just all for one thing, but we're not all subjected to the same things and have to go through the same things in the community and the police treat everyone treat groups of people differently, and they've been doing that, and they've taken the place of having to we automatically assign responsibility to the police to defend ourselves when we have the right to defend ourselves, and to definitely when this part of the operation, when the government was really stealing land, with 1/5 of the land being transferred over to uranium companies, and there's this whole war going on between the U.S. tribal government, U.S. and the tribes, and it's been swept under the rug and turned into this whole other thing, to where a lot of these issues are jokes to people. They're not taken seriously in certain circles, and that's why I wanted to build the bridge between Native American culture and hip hop culture, and build that bridge, because I feel we could explain a lot through hip hop by by explaining what's really going on.
Well, hold that thought. We're going to come back and talk a little bit about your album here that you put together with a number of people, and it's a pretty good lineup, from Immortal Technique on down to Brother Ali and many others.
And free Leonard Peltier right now.
Definitely. I mean, I would always rather do a benefit than a memorial, you know what I mean? So, right now, while the brother is here, we need to make sure he gets his as much light on this case as possible. I mean, it's a universal. Truth is universal. Truth is timeless. And if people really understood that, this is a soldier, regardless of skin color, regardless of cultural background, that's fighting for the good of humanity, for the good of man, for everybody to progress forward, and for the wickedness and iniquities to be pushed away for all people, I think that other people should join in the cause and celebrate this mission to right these wrongs. It's a universal cause. I mean, regardless of what organization you associate yourself with at any time, COINTELPRO was on you. You know what I mean? The people, the same light, the same microscope, the same sniper was aimed right at you. And they looked at us all as the same way anyway, so we might as well look at each other as the same and come together and right this wrong and fight this cause, man. Free Leonard Peltier. And not only free Leonard Peltier, but let's bring light to the wickedness that caused the situation in the first place, man.
No doubt, free Leonard Peltier.
Fred, same question, just looking at the constant demonization and what do we need to do to maintain our humanity?
To reiterate, everything is political in words, terms, fashion, you name it. And Che Guevara of the Cuban Revolution has said that the role of the propagandist can be as important as that of the guerrilla. And U.S. imperialism, this system in particular, historically, when we look back on Vietnam, the propaganda they used, they were not killing Vietnamese people. They used such terms as the VCs. So this dehumanized the people to make this. So it wasn't that you were actually killing human beings. They were VCs. And fast forward to Somalia, they referred to them in terms of the skinnies. You know what I'm saying? So it was not Somalian people that were being gunned down. Under the President Barack Obama administration, when the Somalian children were assassinated, exactly. You heard terms like the pirates. You know what I'm saying? Within our communities today, you hear terms crackheads or gangbangers. The news can report 300 gang members gunned down, and this disconnects the people from each other and dehumanize them. We have to struggle, be consistent. Again, everything is political. Hiding the contradictions, and not just when it's politically correct to talk about this, but our music, our everyday conversations. It was a big hoopla, the response when I raised some issues about this modern day Pied Piper, Sean Carter. A lot of people refer to him as Jay-Z. I term Slave Z, and it ain't no personal thing. It's a political summation about just even say that when he referred to saying that made reference that he arrived the same day that Fred Hampton died, and our position was that he would dare not, to take Lyle Cohen or anybody from their respective situation and say in Nazi Germany that people just passed away in Nazi Germany. There's a whole the intensity of recognizing what words you use, and the whole to be able to distinguish assassination from just passing away.
Let me ask you that. That's for people who don't know. Jay-Z is born on December 4th, 1969, and one of the things that he put in a rap song, and he says frequently, when Fred Hampton, your father, who we should say didn't die, he was murdered. He was assassinated by Chicago police and the FBI and others as he slept, and a gun was pointed to your mother's stomach when she was pregnant with you.
Yeah.
So these things went on. He says, I was born the day Fred Hampton died, and I think he meant it as a compliment, like he acknowledges there's a history, that he acknowledges that he came to this world on a date that we should know. But you didn't see it as a compliment? Why not? I mean, what was the disconnect?
Well, a lot of times people come in late in the movie or late in the game, and they come with a subjective response to get a little background. This was our first encounter with Jay-Z's, Slave Z, or any other similar forces. We have with our organization, the POCC/BPPC, the Panther Cubs. One of our campaigns, one of our tactics is the code of culture. And our mantra for that is there are too many of us in Sing Sing, in reference to the prison, but cats just be talking about some bling bling to try to win these forces at some point of unity with the struggle. And we expose a number of different contradictions. The fact that people, Jay-Z, Slave Z, they can donate the proceeds for the first day of release of their albums to go to the New York Police Department Same New York Police Department that stuck rectum or stuck plunges.
They did that after 9/11.
Yes, Jay-Z done this,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
It's the brag in his albums about doing benefit concerts for Columbine. And a lot of people take a position, I think it's a class contradiction. Well, we should just be happy that he even mentioned your father. We take a different position. If you follow the lyrics all the way through, it was a degrading, it was an attempt, the whole thing, when real niggas don't die, they multiply, to even connect him to the legacy of Chairman Fred. His past birthday, he got a $5 million watch, and that's no connection to Chairman Fred's legacy. It's a blatant contradiction, and a lot of people take the position that, well, we should just be happy, so on and so forth, that people acknowledge that. But again, you look at this individual in particular, amongst others, they are wordsmiths. They are very talented with utilizing words and terms, and it seems somehow they understand the importance of that when it comes to other people. Our black people in particular, a lot of times we try to disconnect it. Well, it's just a song, it's just this word, so on and so forth. But the ruling class, they understand the connection of politics and the terms. That's why he came down on Michael Jackson.
I was going to say, Michael Jackson.
Exactly.
Michael Jackson did that once.
When he made reference to the Jewish community.
Right. Steven Spielberg was his boy and made him change
exactly. They don't play it. No other nationality plays it. He came down on these various individuals, the group, the murderers. When they made misogynistic terms about black people, was no problem. When disrespect the homosexual community or the police, he came down. Our black people must up the ante.
It's interesting, I remember when Puffy put out the song all about the Benjamins, and I have the radio. I have the 12-inch, or the 12-inch copy on vinyl, and it's interesting because in the song, on the radio edit, they flip the word, the N word, they flip the B word backwards, so you don't hear it. And there's a part in there where I think it's Jadakiss, whoever's on there, Jadakiss is on there, and it's like, I do like she do, we stack chips like Hebrews. All right, stereotype about Jewish people making money. So they don't even flip it, they remove it. It's nothing there. Fair enough. You flip the other side where it's the unedited version.
Yes.
And the N word and the B word is there.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the reference to Jews stacking chips,
deleted.
And so I was always curious about that. And then somebody told me, because I used to ask, like, what happened with that? And it basically was like, Clive Davis was like, I don't play that.
They don't play that.
I don't play that. It's a nice song, but you
don't play that.
And so I can respect that.
Yeah.
In that
We
sense.
don't play that.
Right. And so,
the Cubs don't play that.
Right, and that's what I was getting at, because it seems like you folks from Chicago don't like these name shout-outs, because the same thing happened with Rick Ross when he started shouting out Larry Hoover, the founder of the Gangster Disciples. Next thing you know, they was like, man, if you talk about us, pay us up. They're suing.
If I can comment on it, and I just want to, the Panther Cubs, we're an international organization.
Right.
Which was essentially, we are based in Chicago, and I'm from Africa, colonized in Chicago.
Right.
Chicago is a structural place.
Right.
And even this, in reference to this recent phenomenon, with this question about Williams, I believe, who refers his name as Rick Ross, who literally stole the name of a person that's still alive. Free Rick Ross, this guy, Free Rick Ross, was suing to get his name back. That's a contradiction in itself. So I think people look at this short-sighted. When we supposed to think about Slave Z, my reference to him as Slave Z, the question should come up, well, who was the master? Let's bring Live Corn. Let's bring the rest of these criminals out. Let's have a real deal objective discussion. Let's have a discussion about this thing with this Williams, a.k.a. Rick Ross. Why would the Chicago Police Department, who 60 Minutes just said is the capital for false confessions and unsolved crime, unsolved murders, why would the Chicago Police say they have the resources, they're going to investigate the GDs for this? Exactly. So who is this guy?
They're going to
Chicago Police Department said they had the time and the resources. They're going to investigate this whole situation with Rick Ross. Now this is it's the same city Chicago has unsolved murders, so on and so forth. So who is this guy? this is a rhetorical question. We very clear, and this whole. I want to even kick the door in. I want to seize the opportunity to have a discussion about not just even with this guy, this so-called Rick Ross. A lot of these, even so-called conscious community, how with no accountability, people can come take people's lifestyles. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got a lot of studio gangsters, you got studio panthers, studios who talk about they doing something and they can say certain lyrics and go back to their suburban houses, so on and so forth. I mean, it would surprise me if you threw an outside concert and the rain come down, a lot of these guys' tattoos start coming up. I mean, real talk. So a real type of discussion needs to start be happening. Yeah. People out there living and dying for these street organs. I mean, whether you condone it or not, that's not the question. But people to come and take people's lives and experiences and stories, and also within the quote-unquote conscious community. So this is a consistent contradiction how the system takes these black Bruce Willises, actors, put them on a bunch of beats, you know what I'm saying, and portray this as being realistic. I mean, these cats can know the hood, they need a GPS to find their way through the ghetto.
Wow.
So these are challenges we face, like putting together a project. These are just challenges like we face, like because with Leonard Peltier, there's a lot of elders in the Native community. Like, what are we doing? Trying to free Leonard Peltier through hip hop. You know, they don't want the real story to get lost into someone's lyrics because an artist may not have the right history or may not be in tune to what's really going on, and so it's different because with these projects I'm working with like independent artists I mean in the community, and that's how we link up. But on the mainstream, you know, this like hijacking of legacies is just is really amazing. Like what these artists will go to. Yeah, like I was. You know, I don't want a few years ago down the line, and exactly an MC wants to call themselves Leonard Peltier for community credibility, and then then they start their whole story about themselves, and then they're hijacking what Leonard Peltier is really about. So faces these challenges, this topic is just right on point because it's really what's going on.
Gotta definitely free them all, baby. Believe that. And all you artists out there, start utilizing your voices to raise the awareness of what's going on and the injustices not only in your city, but all across the world. Because our voices mean a lot, and we're a lot of inspiration to a lot of people. If we continue to use our voices artfully, then we can change a lot of things. Society is about what do you implement to change the culture in the days that you live in. As artists, we have that power. Utilize it. Say something worthy of listening.
Real talk. Heads up, eyes open, my man. Before y'all know we do this here, I beat him on the pool table before. That's another story, though.
No, you didn't. You got whooped on. You got whooped on. Trust that.
Man, hey, we've been in San Quentin before. We've been backstage before, man. Brother always show love and respect. I got Clint this salute to him, man. We say, what's our call? Free them all, man.
That's what it is, man. Yeah, I performed in San Quentin, you understand me? Gave a live performance up at that time, you understand? It was groovy like a drive-in movie. Then, a few weeks later, whoop on this man in a pool.
I'm telling y'all, man. Next time I had that camera, I'm gonna be on that pool table again, man.
There was too much green out there for it. But we at the paid dues, man, right now. You understand me? I'm finna show up and show out. Much love.
Much love, no respect, man. What's our call? Heads up, eyes open, the fist clench. Y'all know how we do this, man. It's Chairman Fred come to you again, live and direct. Let our brother just let y'all know who this is. Y'all know what it is.
If y'all don't know, my name is Raz Kaz, man, and right about now what we really want to say is free Mumia Jamal.
Yes, indeed. Free to Leonard Peltier. We free Rochelle C.Q. McGee. Man, free to Move 9. You know what I'm saying? Free to C Numbers, Illinois. In fact, we say, man, make it plain and simple, man. What's the call? Free them all. Now, to the people.
Free them all.
Yes,
to the people.
Right on. Yes, indeed.
My love, salute.
And for people listening to this, just putting it in a hip hop perspective, some people might be listening and going, well, you're making too big of a deal. I mean, what's the big beef? But from a hip hop perspective, the name is sacred, and you had to battle for your name, or you had to come to some understanding. There's been many battles, with people who, just had similar nicknames. I'm Mac this, we're gonna have to battle, or we're gonna have to come to some very mutual understanding of what that is. And so it was very important. And early on, there were people that would go up into neighborhoods and it would be like, we have to throw down for this name. This DJ name, we battle. For this MC name, we battle. My name is the same name as Davey DMX. And we're good friends. We're friends. He's with Public Enemy now. But I remember he reminded me that when I met him in New York, when I ran into him, the first thing I said was, what's up with this name? I came at him that way, and he's a legend. So just to, just so people understand that it's not some hunky-dory thing, but it's very serious because it's business attached to it. It's legacy, it's your reputation, it's all these
Legacy.
things, and as you said, things can get lost in the sauce. You know, so if I call myself Chairman Fred and start running around and beating women and, you know, and doing crazy
Legacy.
stuff, that has serious repercussions.
In fact, not just limited to hip hop, because it was this issue with Etta James, formerly of Chess Records.
Right.
The song, and there was a big thing about how Beyonce had took her song and performed it for U.S. President Barack Obama.
Right.
A lot of people said, well, she should be happy, but you don't know what that meaning to her, her particular line, her life, to degrade people, you know, saying what they mean. And don't get me wrong, we want artists and the people in general to support, to talk about these cases, so on and so forth. However, don't let the state come tickle your tummy and put you in a position you're not supposed to be in. Do some sort of leadership or spokesperson. Structure is very important. We need the propagandists. You know, the U.S. they have different artists. Bob Hope, he came to perform for the troops, so on and so forth. But you dare not seeing him go give some sort of military strategy on, you know, how they're going to deal with Vietnam. He was clear on his role.
Right.
One of the contradiction is they'll grab these forces all of a sudden and switch them to be our leadership, portray them as gangsters. You know what I'm saying? And the deal is they can afford the luxury to go back to their plush situation. When you got children, whether in the street organizations or people, when you get the case of revolutionaries, I'm talking about the Sekou Odinga, Sunday Adekolas, Leonard Peltiers, Mumia Abu Jamal, Move 9, and the people in general catching real deal heat and consequences for someone who just maybe going through a phase in their life, want to, you know what I'm saying, play with certain words and terms without any concrete connection or respect for what's going down.
So you're saying don't be a part-time revolutionary?
I'm not even. I'm giving place to land. They don't even have to be a revolutionary. They can do it. Chairman Fred said everyone should be able to commit a revolutionary act.
Right.
We got Kanye West say what he said about George Bush. Don't like 8 hours where he said that.
Let me put it.
That was a revolutionary act. He's not a revolutionary.
Let me put it more plain. There's a whole phenomenon where people who aren't black will like to use the N-word. You know, and they like to, you know, they'll use it and they'll talk about that. But then they don't want to go through what people who are called the N-word have to go through. So in other words, it's like you have folks that will use the N-word back and forth, but when Oscar Grant gets shot, because he's unarmed and black, they're nowhere to be seen.
Man.
So even though I don't use the N-word, I'm perceived that way, and I'm subjected to being followed if my cars don't have a tag. You know, all these types of things that I got to go through. And so the old saying is like, if you're gonna be a nigga, using that word,
It's like
be a full time.
Put some skin in the game. You can't put some skin in the game.
That's the other
you
one.
can't play poker with me long distance. we at the poker table. Someone called in to Vegas. Hold on, who is that? You know what I'm saying? These Drake or fakes, whatever they use. They said the word N-word. They say nigga. You know what I'm saying? But then they dare not. His mother's Jewish. He dare not disrespect that community.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But the same thing happens in Native culture.
No, yes.
Because that's the other thing, you see that being pimped a lot, where folks are suddenly they're Indian. So you know, like, what are you? Oh, you know, I'm 16th of an Indian. You know, my great grandfather's mother. So what tribe? What language? What's their customs? What dances do they do? You know, all these different types of things.
Exactly.
I don't know, but you know, if that will get me into UC Berkeley because I can claim. I'm part of an oppressed, or they may even walk up to you and say, I'm oppressed too. I have people do that
you
too.
come down and be on the
You know, they
reservation,
be
he's like,
blonde
oh, I ain't
hair,
up with that.
your blonde hair, blue eyes, the whole nine.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, we all in the same. And it's like, no, you've been able to, you're not Indian full time. You're not on the reservation,
It's a good
not
discussion.
dealing with the stuff. So it's convenient, you know. So when we have a discussion
Come
on
around
race,
for the
then you want to
casinos,
show up.
yeah.
You know, want the casino, you want to be that.
Yeah.
But I guess what it really boils down to as we're getting ready to wrap up is having a full commitment to these causes. And you know, and I guess I don't want this to get lost on people. What are you asking people to ultimately do as we look towards freeing political prisoners? What are you asking people to do as we try to, you know, get rid of the oppression that all of us are dealing with? I'll start off with you, Aaron.
Basically, to you know, educate yourself on, and to get involved with real, you know.
Well, how do you educate yourself?
Educate yourself by like really getting a vibe on what the people, what's going on in the community and around those issues. Start researching those issues and get involved. You know, any way you can. Some like every way. Like some people maybe can get involved through music or other things. Like everyone has something to bring to the table. And so if you figure out a way to what you can bring to the table and how you can fight back, you know, so great way to do it, you know. And what ultimately we're asking people to do is to free Leonard Peltier through a presidential pardon, and if you know if that our second backup option is to get Leonard Peltier's security risk lowered, and there's just certain ways that we go about raising awareness in the community, and it's personally I worked on building a coalition with the POCCC and Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. because Fred Hampton Sr. and Deputy Mark Clark were targeted by COINTELPRO and by the exact same agents that were targeting Leonard Peltier, and it connects directly, even though people think it directs on other levels, but it directs connectly there too. And there's just, if you just educate yourself, maybe not through the traditional ways, that just by thinking if you're going to show up to a class, by doing independent, being just self-directed and just independently doing it, and really tapping into the issues that people are talking about, not like the community issues that go on day to day that really affect people, and go from there, and any way possible, just it may be different on a different day, so how we approach it is very, very important, but just making sure that these are real human beings we're talking about, and that are locked up right now as we speak, praying and dreaming for a hope to get free. So that's his work for them.
Get out of jail in 2 weeks' time after they do atrocities in the community, and here are folks that are freedom fighters who are doing 30 and 40 and 50 years, many of them in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
This is the album right here. Who are some of the people on the album? I see you got Two Mex, that's out of LA. That's Talib Kweli's on here. That's good. And you're just doing some new stuff. So you got Brother Ali on some of these pieces. Who else?
Well, on the upcoming album, A Struggle for Human Rights, got Brother Ali and
Immortal Technique, and one from
on the
Dead
first
Friends.
project.
Man, you got Rocker from Dilated People?
Yeah.
You didn't pull no punches on this.
No, yeah, I've studied hip hop. I love hip hop, and I really have had my, ears.
You got T Cash, okay. All right.
T Cash.
and we're gonna see some clips from the documentary where everybody from Bun B on down shouting out Leonard Peltier.
Yeah.
Chairman Fred,
Exciting.
what's your last comments as we close out here?
Well, again, Revolutionary Appreciation give us the opportunity to be here. We want, from some point of unity, unite with this struggle. I'm a realist. Everybody's not going to be some sort of frontline freedom fighter, but some point of unity with the struggle. Keep the case of Leonard Peltier, Mumia Abu Jamal, Sunday Adekoli, Marshall Eddie Conway, Sekou Odinga, your brother, the sister down the street, our people in New Orleans, people in general. Keep them on your mind and your hearts. In fact, we say, what's our call? Free them all. I can be also got it at www.chairmanfredjr.blogspot.com, chairmanfredjr.blogspot.com. Everything's political. Everybody's not going to be no frontline freedom fighter. Some point of unity with the struggle.
I appreciate that. And are you sure you don't live next to Barack Obama?
Man, whole different. And also, just because somebody got an address in Chicago don't mean that they live in Chicago.
Okay.
So just because he got an address don't mean he lived in Chicago.
Because I know I went by that house. I saw poodles and puppy dogs and
pit bulls and Rottweilers.
That's your neighborhood.
Real talk.
Okay. All right. We're out for now, folks. Peace.
Yes, indeed.
This is Trilogy and for UGK for life, man. To support all bunch of different prisons, man. Specifically on the belt today, man. Free media, man. Heads up out there, man. Keep it true on the streets, man. Represent like it's supposed to.
Just like Matulu Shakur, just like Mumia Abu Jamal, Leonard Peltier. Free Mumia, free Leonard Peltier, free Matulu Shakur, free them all.
God bless you.
Ordinary circumstances, y'all, I would ask for a moment of silence. But in this situation, y'all, you want a moment of noise. You want the state of Georgia, you want California, you want LA, you want Africa and Attica to hear us real loud and clear. With a long live Troy Davis, y'all. Long live Troy Davis. Let me hear real. Shake the ground of Cook County Jail. Shake the ground of Folsom. Shake the ground of Attica. Long live Troy Davis. Let me hear real loud.
Long live Troy Davis!
They can't hear you in Cook County Jail, y'all. Let me hear it again.
Long live Troy Davis!
They can't hear you in Stateville Penitentiary. Let me hear it again.
Long live Troy Davis!
They can't hear you in Folsom. They can't hear you, man. They can't hear you in Angola, in Africa. Let me hear it again.
Long live Troy Davis!
We're gonna go in the corner, get our water, and come on back, keep on swinging for Sunday out of Dakota. Keep on swinging for St. Old Digger. Keep on swinging for Mumia Abu Jamal. What's our call? Free them all. What's the goal? Free them all. What's the goal? Free them all. What's the goal? Free them all. Pounds, people, y'all. Do we got love for most Devin Talib Kweli? I tell you, y'all, do we got do Chicago? We got love for most Devin Talib Kweli? I'm talking about. Love for the Shaman, shout out to the Shaman.